Alright, so we needed a set of forks around the farm here, so got online, did some looking around, even called my local John Deere dealer, but everybody wanted about $1,300, $1,400 for a set of forks, and they only had like a 3,000 pound lift capacity. So I got to doing some digging around, and a company called MTL Attachments. Found them online. They're actually out of Tallapoosa, Georgia, and they had the best deal. So basically free shipping, as long as it's going to a trucking terminal of their carrier. So I was able to find a trucking terminal in my area, well, relatively close, Rapid City, about 120 miles away. So, and out here 120 miles is fairly relative. So ended up placing the order. They're 5-foot forks, so 60-inch. They're supposed to be 5,000 pound. They're skid steer style attachment, about $750 with no shipping. So $750 to the trucking terminal. I picked them up yesterday. So we've got the skid steer plate hooked back on the crawler loader. We'll pull these things off and we'll see if we can put them to the test. I've got an 871 Detroit on a skid down here. 871 Detroits, 8V71 if you mind. They weigh about 2,500 pounds dry. Well, that one's full of oil. There's about 8 gallons of oil in that sucker. And it's got a radiator, Peterbilt radiator sitting in front of it, a stand, engine stand, all the framework around it, and a 13-speed. So 2,500 plus, maybe another 500 to 1,000. We're looking at 3 to 3,500 pounds right there. Maybe we'll see if we can pick that up. So 5,000 pound lift capacity, should be able to do it. So we'll see what happens. Alright, so first impressions, pretty well built. MTL, they're kind of a small brand. They're also made in America, so that was kind of one of the deciding points for me. I like supporting American jobs, especially when jobs are fleeing out of this country and economies are shutting down all over the place, especially here in Wyoming. So, like I said, first impressions, they had two different versions. They had a kind where the center section of the basket or the guard here was cut out, a walk-through as they called it. And then they had a full back like this. I'm kind of more of a preference of the full back. I've had loads shift on me and come back into the window on a skid steer. Namely, I was pushing a ball of snow in Colorado with a skid steer about the size of a small car. It rolled back on me, and it was quite a little while before I could get it twisted and bumped around to get it rolled out so I could get out of the skid steer itself. So it makes it harder to get in and out of a skid steer. As you see, I don't have a skid steer, but having that full back, I kind of like having the extra protection. Because if you've ever been trapped in a skid steer, it really starts making you think after a little bit. Hey, bud. So, first impressions, very well built. The butt area here is good. Looks like 3/8 or maybe a quarter or thicker. And it's totally reinforced through here, all the way back, all the way across. The forks are the clip-in style that you can pull the pin and adjust them side to side. I like a 5-foot fork because it allows me to kind of get something a little farther out on the fork if I'm loading in the back of a truck. I'm not butting up against the back end or not. This section up through here is a nice heavy grate. I was a little worried about it clipping into my skid steer plate because my skid steer plate is a homebrew, but everything lined up and dropped right into place. The galley down here in the bottom is wide enough for most skid steers, and as they advertise, it will fit about 90% or 99% of skid steers. They also carry a line for the mini skid steer style, like if you're running a small Kubota or something of that nature that had that smaller plate. So also too, you got nice perforated edges here for your foot to grab hold of when you're getting in and out of a skid steer style. Again, I don't have a skid steer, but I try to set things up so that if I ever did get a hold of a skid steer, I'd be able to instantly move right into it. So a nice big extra back. You can adjust those forks, and I forget, it was 6 different positions all the way across the front. Backside again is kind of covered up by my skid steer plate a little bit, but it's got the center section notch out style, not the full top like my grapple's got. And then down below has a nice big wide pan down here for your actual pins to slide into. So overall, I'm fairly impressed so far. Let's go pick something up and see what it does. Alright, so as you can see, 871 Detroit, 13 speed, pallet, radiator, pipes, oil, all the trimmings. Let's see what this old bird can do. So far so good. I don't see any curvature in the forks. Everything still is looking nice and good. And like I said, he's about 3,500 pounds on here. I didn't want to get too close to the radiator because I don't really want to bust the seal on it. I need to use this thing next summer. But yeah, so far so good. I'm impressed. I like it. Again, here's kind of why I wanted the 5-foot forks. You can see where it gets the main part of the skid. And then I also want to be able to touch back here. And originally this thing's actually made to come into from the side. So it's actually an engine crate for an old Cummins 855 that I retrofitted for a power plant for this 871. Alright, cool deal. Set this thing down and go after a few other things. I need to pick up some axles and get in, fish into this railroad iron over here today too. Alright, so working with it for a few hours today. I'm impressed. This old loader has a lot more power and a lot more torque than a skid steer does, and so it kind of likes to twist and pull on things, and moving some logs, some I-beam, and a few other things around today, and some light stuff too. I'm impressed. It does really well, and I think picking that old Detroit up was a pretty good test. I got to adding it up. If Detroit weighs 2,500 by itself, the frame probably weighs another 400. Radiator, I know for a fact that thing's 150 to 200 pounds or better. So, and then the 13-speed transmission, you're looking at another 1,000 right there. So, yeah, I'd say that thing's probably a little closer to 4,000 pounds because the old loader didn't really want to pick it up. And I know the pump on this thing is getting a little bit weak. Side note, they're pretty easy to fix on these. It's right behind the grill. There's a big pump sitting right down in there that runs off the front of the crankshaft. So if you're buying an old 450, like I said, I digress, but they're actually not that bad to change the hydraulic pump on them. So, okay, back to the MTL forks. I'm impressed. The only thing I would change, probably this side plate here is, I don't know, it's a little thin, but again, if you're working a skid steer, it's probably not too bad. I like this right here. I was putting straps around some stuff on a pallet here. They notched out, probably to clean this gutter out where your forks slide in, but here's the nice thing. That makes a perfect little spot to hook a ratchet strap into. There's another notch right up here that you can hook a ratchet strap into. And I don't know how much this is going to take as far as pulling really heavy on, but like I said, I like all the attachment points. This is a solid edge right here that you could probably get a good hook on with something for stabilization. Not for lifting, not for pulling, but just stabilization. And this is a nice big old 1/2 inch section here, so it makes for a good step when you're stepping, for me, off the tracks onto this and onto a pallet or something. But and the skid steer as well. The other thing I forgot to mention earlier, MTL actually cuts holes in the back plate here, and what this is for an add-on. You can get a bale spear for hay bales to go in here. And trivial point, like I said, he come out of Tallapoosa, Georgia. Kind of a strange coincidence. My great-grandmother was born and raised in Tallapoosa County, Alabama. So it was kind of an interesting little oddity when I ran across that. So yeah, Tallapoosa, Georgia is where these guys are at. It's real close to the Tallapoosa County, Alabama. Granny was actually from Moccasin Slide on Hogback Mountain. So it's a little bit of a story behind that one too. Yeah, my homemade skid steer plate worked really well. I think I had maybe a 1/16 of an inch clearance difference right here. It was just enough where I could take my handle up here and smack it with a hammer, and it slid right on into the pin slot. So we were good to go on that. Overall, like I said, made in USA, it works for me. MTL, I'll put a link to them in the description box. You want to go check them out yourself. But like I said, for the money, for the weight, yeah, 5,000, 5,500 pound lift capacity, and for a 5-foot set of forks, open cage or enclosed, I think you're doing pretty good, guys. So like I said, check them out if you're looking for a pretty decent set of skid steer forks at a really good price.